Letter talking about the rolling recession we've been in for the last 3 years since the Fed jacked up rates. We got a negative quarter in the first quarter, potentially in the second quarter as well. And I think more and more people are getting concerned about an extended recession and amid all the uncertainty. We actually think we're at the end of this rolling recession. And
Cathie Wood didn't make a flashy announcement. She didn't stand on stage shouting XRP's name, but the people who understand signals heard it. And when you connect the dots, her words, her moves, her timing, it all leads to one conclusion. Cathie Wood just confirmed what XRP holders have been waiting for. December 2025 isn't just another date. It's the line in the sand. Here's what's crazy. Everyone was so busy watching Bitcoin ETFs and the halving narrative that they missed the subtext. When Cathie talked about the tokenized financial system and value networks overtaking store of value assets, she wasn't describing Ethereum. She wasn't talking about Bitcoin. She was talking about something built for the world's financial plumbing itself. And there's only one asset that fits that mold: XRP. You can call it speculation, call it hopium, but when an institutional visionary like Cathie Wood starts aligning her fund strategies around digital assets that fit into ISO 20022's framework, that's not random. That's strategy. The quote that broke the silence came during a quiet interview about ARK Invest's updated thesis on next-gen financial infrastructure. Cathie said, "The new financial rails are being built right now, and they'll make current payment systems obsolete by 2025. She didn't name names, but that's the thing. If you've been following Ripple's partnerships, the central bank pilots, the institutional integrations, you don't need her to say XRP. The puzzle already fits. Ripple has spent years building relationships with over 300 financial institutions. It survived the SEC trial by fire. It was declared not a security. And while most coins were chasing hype, XRP was sitting quietly, rebuilding the rails of global money transfer, one corridor at a time. So when Cathie Wood says, new financial rails, she's not predicting the future. She's describing the present that 99% of the market is too distracted to see. December 2025 isn't just a random month to throw in a headline. It's the end of a cycle, the deadline for multiple real-world timelines that converge. ISO 20022 full global implementation. By that date, all cross-border payment systems and major clearinghouses will have switched to the new messaging standard. CBDC rollouts across key regions. The EU, India, and several African and Asian economies have already announced target completion windows between Q3 and Q4 2025. Institutional crypto adoption cycles. Asset managers like ARK, BlackRock, and Fidelity have all forecasted their tokenization rollouts by the end of that year. Everything points to a single reality: by December 2025, money as we know it won't move the same way anymore. And that's why Cathie's words hit different for those paying attention. She knows ARK can't miss the next trillion-dollar transition, from speculative crypto to utility-driven financial assets. And the utility narrative? That's XRP's entire DNA. You can almost feel the market changing. 2021 was meme coins and chaos. 2022 was pain. 2023 was recovery. 2024 was regulation and rebuilding. But 2025 is going to be the year where real utility eats speculation alive. We've said it for years: XRP isn't a meme coin. It's not built for retail hype. It's the backbone of a system that doesn't care about influencers or hashtags. It's built to move trillions, not trend. Cathie Wood built her name on seeing these shifts before they happen. She saw Tesla before Wall Street cared. She saw Bitcoin when institutions mocked it. She saw AI before it became the gold rush. And now she's hinting, not directly saying but implying, that the infrastructure for the global financial reset is already here. When she says, by 2025 traditional systems will be obsolete, she's talking about the extinction of SWIFT's old dominance, the rise of interoperable ledgers, and the merging of finance with real-time digital settlement. That's not Ethereum. That's not Bitcoin. That's XRP. Here's something most retail investors don't know. Cathie Wood's team has been modeling something called the convergence trade. It's the idea that once digital assets achieve regulatory clarity, Institutions will reallocate from speculative bets into settlement layer protocols, the assets that underpin everything. Guess what's at the top of that list? Yep, XRP. Ripple's partnerships span across Santander, SBI, Bank of England Pilots, Central Bank of Bhutan, Tranglo, and multiple payment corridors across Asia and Africa. These aren't vaporware. They're functioning networks. And when ISO 20022 flips fully online, these systems will be live, not theoretical. That's what Cathie Wood was signaling. The dawn of monetary interoperability, and the wealth that comes from owning the rails instead of the trains. Because the trains change. The rails stay forever. What most people still don't get. The average investor still thinks XRP is a dead project, because it doesn't pump like memecoins. They don't realize that XRP's entire goal isn't to moon. It's to move, to become invisible, embedded in every transaction that crosses borders. That's the power play here. And when you think like an institution, when your focus is trillions, not TikTok trends, that's when XRP stops looking boring and starts looking inevitable. Cathie Wood gets it. She's not trading hype. She's betting on systems. And her message, whether she says the word XRP or not, couldn't be clearer. The next generation of millionaires won't be chasing volatility. They'll be the ones who understood utility before the world priced it in. Let's be honest. Most people don't actually listen when Cathie Wood talks. They hear the buzzwords. They hear innovation, AI, disruption. But they don't decode what she's saying. And that's where retail investors lose the plot. Because when you listen carefully, really listen, there's this rhythm in her words, this underlying pattern, and that's what's got the XRP crowd on edge. It's not that Cathie Wood came out one day and said, "I'm buying XRP." She doesn't need to. She never does. She telegraphs it through her philosophy, her market logic, her conviction-style investing. Remember how she talked about Tesla when it was trading under $200? Everyone laughed. They said she was delusional. But she wasn't looking at the stock price. She was looking at the architecture of disruption. The infrastructure that would rewrite the rules of an industry. Now fast forward to 2025. That same language, interoperability, real-time settlement, data-rich transactions, monetary revolution. She's using those words again. And those aren't Bitcoin words. Those aren't Ethereum words. Those are ISO 20022 words. Those are the words that fit the language of XRP. And it's not just semantics. ARK Invest's research team has been deep diving into digital asset infrastructure. You look at their white papers, their data threads, they're tracking the rails of a new global system, not just the coins floating on top of it. They're obsessed with scalability, compliance, integration with traditional finance. That's the XRP thesis. Not hype, not meme coins, not speculation, but a monetary operating system that can plug into the core of banks, payment networks, and governments. Here's the thing that's shaking the crypto community right now. The entire ISO 20022 framework is becoming the backbone for global financial messaging. The same standard the IMF, World Bank, BIS, and SWIFT are aligning to. XRP and Stellar are already compliant. They're not adapting to the system, they are the system. And that's exactly how Cathie Wood thinks. She doesn't chase trends. She invests in the plumbing of the future. You can see it in how she built ARK's portfolio. When everyone was screaming about short-term profits, she was buying into the infrastructure of inevitability. Tesla wasn't just a car company, it was an energy network. Roku wasn't just a streaming device, it was a data layer. And now XRP, for those paying attention, isn't just a token. It's the interledger protocol for money. And that's the part everyone misses. Cathie doesn't have to buy XRP directly. She could be positioning around the companies building on RippleNet, the enterprises integrating ISO 20022 messaging, or even fintechs partnering with Ripple's cross-border technology. ARK already tracks blockchain and fintech infrastructure plays, and if Ripple's institutional adoption keeps accelerating, it naturally fits her model. Here's what's happening behind the scenes. Governments are tired of slow payments. Central banks are experimenting with digital currencies. Corporate treasuries want real-time liquidity without exposure to the volatility of traditional crypto. XRP solves all three. It's programmable, it's regulatory friendly, and it's built for volume. Now zoom out and imagine Cathie Wood, the queen of exponential tech, looking at that ecosystem and thinking, this isn't speculation, this is inevitability. That's what she's always done. Spotted the inevitables before the world catches on. And yet, the irony? Retail still doesn't see it. They think it's another hype cycle. They see XRP trending on X and think it's another pump. But beneath the memes, beneath the tribal noise, something foundational is moving. Governments testing Ripple for real-time settlement. Banks building corridors around ISO 20022. Swift implementing updates that make XRP look less like an outsider and more like a prototype. There's a quiet conviction building in the background. The type that's not loud or dramatic. It's mathematical. It's structural. And if there's one thing Cathie's always been early on, it's structural change. What's fascinating is how aligned XRP's story feels with her worldview. She believes innovation doesn't just disrupt industries, it compresses time. It makes the future arrive faster. And XRP, in many ways, is doing exactly that for global finance. It's taking something that used to take 3 days, cross-border settlement, and reducing it to 3 seconds. People underestimate how profound that is. They talk about prices and charts, but this is about temporal economics. Time is money, literally. XRP collapses time. And that's why the narrative around it is shifting from crypto to infrastructure. So when investors say, Cathie Wood's next big bet could be XRP, they're not talking about her opening a Coinbase account and hitting buy. They're talking about her positioning intellectually, strategically, toward the ecosystem XRP represents. The same ecosystem that the new global financial messaging system is quietly being built on. That's the kind of shift that happens before the crowd realizes what's going on. The slow, invisible, and then all at once. And that's what we're seeing now. The first tremors. There's this moment that happens before every major shift. When the charts are flat, the noise is gone, and all that's left is silence. It's the same silence that came before Tesla broke out, before Bitcoin crossed $10,000, before AI became a household word. That's where XRP is sitting right now. The silence before the explosion. Cathie Wood built her legacy on that silence. She knows what it feels like to be ridiculed before being proven right. When she said Tesla would hit $3,000, they laughed. When she said Bitcoin was the future of value storage, they mocked her. But she's not a gambler. She's a systems thinker. She looks at patterns the way a chess master looks at the board 10 moves ahead. Now, she's watching the same system signals light up around XRP. The convergence of regulation, infrastructure, and macroeconomic necessity, all aligning under one standard, ISO 20022. Because this isn't just about Ripple or a coin. It's about an architecture for the next financial era. An era where every transaction speaks the same digital language. Where value moves as easily as information. Where liquidity is no longer trapped by borders. And XRP, for those who understand it, isn't just participating in that system. It's becoming the grammar of it. That's why the smartest investors don't see XRP as a trade. They see it as a timestamp. A marker of when the world decided to flip the switch. Think about it. The IMF, BIS, World Bank, and G20 all quietly aligning on digital rails that use ISO 20022. Banks running pilot programs with RippleNet. The World Bank's reports now including references to blockchain-based settlement. These aren't coincidences, they're signals. And Cathie Wood's entire career has been built on decoding signals like these before the crowd catches on. Here's what's really wild. While retail traders argue over meme coins, central banks are learning to speak Ripple's language. The European Central Bank, the Reserve Bank of Australia, the Monetary Authority of Singapore, even the Bank of England, all testing or adopting ISO frameworks that XRP was born compliant with. And that's when you realize the future Cathie Wood sees isn't about replacing the old system. It's about upgrading it. XRP is that upgrade. The truth is, most people won't believe it until it's too late. Until the headlines change from XRP lawsuit to global banks now using XRP settlement rails. Until the same analysts who mocked Ripple start writing bullish notes calling it a monetary breakthrough. And when that happens, when the crowd finally looks back, it'll be the same story we've seen 100 times. The innovators always look insane, right up until they look inevitable. You can feel that shift now under the surface. Crypto Twitter might be asleep, but institutions aren't. Quietly, they're aligning, testing, building corridors, and preparing for what comes next. A frictionless global economy. And when that switch flips, when the markets wake up to what Cathie's probably already seen, this won't just be another bull run. It'll be a realignment, a rerouting of global liquidity through new pipes, the ones XRP was designed to carry. It won't be loud. It won't be chaotic. It'll happen like most revolutions do, slowly, and then all at once. And for those holding XRP right now, through the doubt, through the fear, through the silence, maybe that's what Cathie Wood recognizes most. Conviction. Because conviction is the quietest form of power. And XRP right now is pure conviction in motion. If you zoom out, really zoom out, you start to see it. Every major financial shift in history begins the same way. Dismissed, denied, then suddenly everywhere. That's where XRP is heading. And when people talk about Cathie Wood, they don't talk about her picks. They talk about her timing. The way she senses when a narrative is about to flip. The way she leans into chaos when others run. That's not luck, that's pattern recognition at the highest level. She spots the tipping points before they tip. And XRP is sitting right on that edge. Here's the reality most people miss. It's not about hype anymore. It's not about tweets or price swings or influencers calling for moonshots. It's about infrastructure. It's about who's building the rails of the next financial system and who's already on them. Ripple has built corridors that stretch across continents. Real banks, real money, real institutions using real rails. XRP isn't a white paper dream anymore. It's the backbone of something the world is quietly moving toward. Cathie Wood understands that kind of innovation because she's lived it. She saw it with Tesla when people mocked the idea of electric cars. She saw it with Bitcoin when the world called it a fad. And now that same pattern, that same early laughter, echoes around XRP. But laughter always comes before acceptance. And acceptance always comes before explosion. You can feel it, the market coiling tighter, the silence before the storm, the sense that something's about to break. The lawsuit drama, the headlines, the manipulation, it's all just noise before the clarity. Because when the dust settles, the fundamentals don't lie. XRP isn't just another coin. It's a financial protocol the old system can't ignore anymore. And if you listen carefully, you can almost hear the hum of inevitability in the background. The global shift to ISO 20022 isn't an idea, it's a deadline. And XRP was born ready for it. That's why investors who've been paying attention aren't chasing the hype. They're positioning quietly. They're watching the system change from the inside out. And when that moment hits, when the headlines flip from crypto chaos to digital standardization, XRP will already be there, waiting. So yeah, maybe Cathie Wood hasn't said the words out loud yet. But the signs she's watching, they're screaming. And when history looks back, it'll say the signs were there all along. For those who dared to look deeper. If you're still here, you already get it. You feel that shift under the surface. So tell me this. Do you think Cathie Wood is already eyeing XRP? Or are we still too early for the crowd to see it? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'm reading every single one. And if you believe in what's coming next, hit that like button, subscribe, and let's ride this next chapter of the financial revolution together. Because when the switch flips, you won't want to be the one saying, I almost bought XRP.